treat all of your services with everybody like it's new. Don't assume that anyone knows. Again, assuming if the message, maybe this is the success pattern, don't assume that anybody knows anything. You kind of just have to say it all. So assume that nobody really knows anything. And those that do know can probably just skip ahead if that's information that they already know.
Who is maybe another set of speakers, maybe our third key topic before we wrap up the podcast? Was there another concept or another speaker that really captured your attention?
Yeah, one that stood out to me, and again, it's nothing revolutionary, but it shocks me at how often people don't follow it. Mike Schmidt and AJ Rivera got up and talked about the idea of the funnel hub on your website. And the thought is that there are so many places on your website where you might have you might talk about your service, or you might talk about something special about a product or things that you do, but you're not necessarily giving yourself the credibility that people are wanting to make that investment, or to reach out or set an appointment or pick up the phone or fill out that contact form, or even just to purchase. And so there's several pieces that they talk about that really just need to happen. And the thing I loved about this is that funnel hacking isn't specifically designed around agency owners, right? It was really designed to be for entrepreneurs. And that is owners, a pretty broad range of people. And so not everyone is tech savvy necessarily, but the concepts these guys were talking about, I hope everybody paid attention to, because it makes good digital marketing sense. It makes good SEO sense. It makes fantastic pay-per-click results sense, and social media ads results sense, etc. So it stuck out to me as a really powerful message, because I wish everybody knew these things. And one concept they talk about is how you get from a visitor to revenue in different ways on your website. And they argued, I think that we had both written down that they had argued that websites are like mazes, and it gives all this information without asking anything or progressing very well to the next step to get them to the finish line. And on
a website, it's easy to take a lot of dead ends or wrong turns that ultimately don't lead to anywhere productive. And
people get bored, right? And you got to catch their attention and get them excited and get them to follow that course of action, call to action to buy or contact or what have you, as far as what your service or product is. So the idea they put together something called a funnel hub, and they specifically talk about this being on your website. Now, there are funnel hub ideas that branch outside of your website, but use your website is kind of the central piece. And I think that's a good concept. But in their funnel hub, they talked about 4 specific things that really help to make it so that you can make that connection. Number 1 is on your About Us page on your website, use that to add credibility. There was kind of a litmus test that they were talking about where they showed up to a meeting and noticed that several of these people that they knew who they were by reputation ahead of time, and they thought, what are we doing here? And an idea came up, and they started Googling all their names and found out that many of them weren't even searchable by their name online. So that the power of your brand and how well your brand is represented online adds a lot of credibility. What a basic but powerful concept. So as a test for yourself, Google yourself. Google your name. Google your business name. Google your own personal name. If you're a doctor or a lawyer, you can have separate profiles for your profession because you're given titles, right? You're an MD or Esquire or what have you. And there's other professions where you can too, not just those. But if you Google your name, do you show up?
Is it the right person?
Yeah. What shows up? Is it the right person? Is it something good that's said about you? Is it something negative? And if you have a hard time finding you, or if there's not enough information, I think that's a great place to start.
Absolutely.
There was a statement made by the well-known and sort of legendary Rand Fishkin. He talked about an idea that has always stuck with me over the years about branding. And in branding, he talks about when somebody starts an SEO campaign, arguably the first 6 months of that campaign should be 100% about branding, not your keywords.
Name of the people, name of the product, name of the company.
Yep. And then that same concept, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? Because an apple is healthy, and the more healthy you are, the less you need help getting that healthy or back to health. The same thing applies to branding. You can do a little bit up front that will save a lot of headache on the back end, right? An ounce of what's the saying? Prevention. That's right.
It's worth a pound of
cure and pain. That's right. So, anyways, in this funnel hub, they talk about use your about us page and talk about your company, about really who you are. Like, what's your mission? What are the kinds of things you do? What do people think about you? It's a great place to put up reviews and testimonials, videos or written text, for example, or you can even bring in some of your Google or Facebook reviews and what have you. They also talk about it's a great place to, in a very classy way, right? Not braggadocious, but what are your case studies? If you're a service provider, you might say that this service did this over this period of time for this kind of person. And those are the kinds of things that people look at to say, well, those are the results I want.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's just one concept, right? The second one is you need to talk about who you are. You need to talk about your culture. You need to talk about what you want to accomplish. You need to talk about what your business stands for. And maybe, do you remember going back into the 80s and 90s, everyone had a mission statement that was at the headline of their website. Mm-hmm. And long gone are those days where that matters as much. But this is a way that you can actually express that message of, hey, we're all about creating impact and helping people, or whatever the case may be, in a very nice way, but it's not front and center on your homepage. By the way, that's another hack. Don't make that front and center. You could probably do a little better than that, but there's a right way to present that message.
They called it a movement. Movement page. Who's your tribe? Who's your community? What mission are you on? What tribe or community are you leading as a service professional?
That's right. That's right. They did. Then they talked about using your service pages or your product pages to ultimately list your offer, right? Are you running a sale? Is there some service that is more important than the others? Your perspective of what's important might be different than what the audience might perceive as important. Maybe they've got an issue and they're looking to solve that's really common, or maybe you want to list your most profitable service or product first. Or you can find a balance somewhere in the middle. But list your offer, and then treat all of your services with everybody like it's new. Don't assume that anyone knows. Again, assuming if the message, maybe this is the success pattern, don't assume that anybody knows anything. You kind of just have to say it all. So assume that nobody really knows anything. And those that do know can probably just skip ahead if that's information that they already know. But it's a great place to offer people freebies, downloads, white papers. If you've got a chart or something, kind of a guide that you're giving to people, service pages are a great place to offer those things. That helps kind of lock them in and be a little more, what was the word that they used? But sold on your offer, whatever that might be. And the last piece that they talked about, well, it's not necessarily the last piece, but the last one that I have written down was they talk about public publishing. So where are you? Where do you participate? What's your community, right? Are you on Facebook? Are you on YouTube? Are you on Instagram? Are you on TikTok? Are you in LinkedIn? And you need to not only list those places, but make it easy for people to connect on those places. And it doesn't need to be buried or hidden. I know it's really common for people sometimes to put them in the footer or the header of their website, because that's just a place to stick it.
Right.
But if you craft the message on your pages somewhere in your website, you can just say, hey, we're on social media, join us. Come be a part of the conversation. We invite you to be a part of our community. So those are really important. List the places that you belong. Give people instruction on how they connect with you. How can they, just tell them, like us on Facebook. I mean, it could be that simple. Or it could be, hey, we send out a newsletter every week, or we send out a newsletter once a month. Put your email address in here, and we'll include you on it. I mean, those are places that you can connect.
That's awesome.
And then where are your content channels? So maybe you've got a content channel on your blog, on your website, but are there other places that you might write for? Do you write reviews for other places? Are you a specialist in something? Are you published in the medical journal? Talk about those things. Those are all the pieces that concur with what Jim Edwards was saying, with not being the hero, but being more of the guide, right? Make the invitations happen. But the one piece that they kept reiterating over and over again, and it was funny, and I wrote down in big letters, is don't ever forget your call to action. Like, you want to instruct people to do something. Tell them, hey, I expect now you've read this, that this is the next step. Give them a big, bold button or a phone number or something that's just in your face to let them know, here's what I expect you to do next.
There is a little bit of a framework and a template, certainly when it comes to organizing all of the information on your website. And oftentimes, because professional service providers are not marketers necessarily, they're really smart at their particular niche, they just allow the web developer, web designer to kind of take the ball and run with it,
right,
and set those things up. And and many web designers and web developers are fantastic at what they do, but sometimes they don't have marketing in mind. They have design in mind and aesthetics and beauty.
Yeah, it looks pretty.
And function in mind, but they don't necessarily have marketing in mind. So, but when you have marketing
of the minds
on your mind when you're putting your website together, you'll organize your website in a certain way as you've described, or as Mike Schmidt and AJ Rivera described, to make your website more functional and help generate leads better and convert more visitors into patients and customers.
Now, I do also have to apologize, because that's not all they said. Mm-hmm. They had so much information, but those are the pieces that stood out that I wanted to talk about.
Well, just to summarize, Jim, you started off with Jim Edwards talking about having a good hook, something that captures attention, a good story that enrolls and engages people emotionally, and then having a good offer, having some irresistible something that people want to take action and
desirable,
enjoy.
Yeah.
And how important it is that in your emails, your social media posts, your Facebook and online ads, and even on the various pages on your website, that it's easy for you to point your finger at what's the hook, what's the story, what's the offer, and making sure that those are all aligned. So that was the first thing you mentioned. Second was the importance of of understanding your dream customer, your persona, answering those 7 questions, and really taking the time to understand who your ideal customer really is, and then making sure that you're looking at all of your marketing and advertising through that lens to see if there's any gaps or lack of alignment.
Right.
Third thing you mentioned was this idea of restructuring and reorganizing your website so that it functions more like a hub for everything that you're doing, more of a funnel hub, if in that sense, and structuring each of the pages so that they can help.
Yeah, instruction and making the offer more clear.